And that way, whoever is late, they can catch up. So go ahead and click that little button, and then we will get going. Okay, here's a wonderful picture of you guys. I think it was towards the beginning. So Audrey was able to put that on there. And then we do have a land acknowledgement for our Indigenous people and for their traditions of the territory. But also what I want to add on there is that we now honor you as you're going to be our graduates soon. And you're going to be the next generation who's able to build the Inland Empire in leadership and moving us forward. So we also want to honor you, as you will always be a part of CSU SB in our alumni once you get done with this dissertation. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to basically go over some of the how to assemble your team, look at some of the forms, how to ensure that you're driving your dissertation forward. Your chair is there for support, but ultimately it will be your responsibility to drive that dissertation forward, okay? Then we're going to look at chapter 2 in the content for chapter 2. And then you will do evaluation for this. It's basically, it's not on what I'm doing. It's an evaluation to give us information. Do you feel prepared to go and do your dissertation? Okay. So that's basically what the evaluation is. All right. So you'll have 3 different seminars. It's going to cover different information, but for this seminar, we're going to cover basically what is your obligation or personal commitment for your dissertation, how to assemble that dissertation committee and why you would pick certain people to be on your committee. We're going to give you a timeline, and I think you have one, but you're going to modify it for you and be more specific. How do you hold yourself accountable for that timeline? And then we're going to work on a checklist. So making sure you check all the little components you need to do. And then we're going to look at forms, because each year you have to turn in forms. Your chair has to do some of the forms. You have to do the forms to keep you going in the dissertation process. However, it is your responsibility. So you would fill out all the forms and just send them to your chair and they would sign them, is basically how it works. And then basically from there, I will bring in, like I said, one of the past students to try to get some more tips of organization. The reason I selected her, she just got done and she was done ahead of 3 years, but it was her organization that actually got her there. Nothing on the part of the chair, which was myself. I didn't do anything different. She did it all because she had her own timeline and she kept herself going. And so I want you to be able to ask her some questions. All right. So let's look at the personal commitment. This is our most recent grads, doctorates that we did in the in December. Okay. So we had our most recent doctorates. All right, personal commitment. So one of the things that I have seen being on committees, and I've only, for myself, I've completed 1 dissertation chair, so I'm a baby at it. But I have 5 more chairs that I'm doing. And one of the things I see that when individuals do this, they're successful. They actually look at their calendar, their work calendar, their family calendar, their commitments, and they have it all planned out on their on a daily agenda when they're going to do their writing. And they do writing every single day, even if it's a paragraph, even if it's reading an article and writing 1 paragraph. So you need to be able to do some type of time management. So real quickly, what do you guys use for time management? How do you organize yourself just now in your daily routine? Who has some Tell me what you're doing now.
So I've got the Outlook app for work, and then my wife and I have one of those giant sticky notes that we build out to a 3-month calendar, and it's on the door in our room. That's kind of our personal shared one, and we just try to stay aware of everything coming up, and as things change, communicate. But the toughest part is just having the courage and confidence to start on from my perspective.
It's so true, because it's like when you're trying to get yourself to the gym, or work out or walk every day, you have to really plan that out. You have to intentionally do it. And for the first couple of weeks, it's painful. And after that, it becomes a habit, right? And that's the same thing with your dissertation writing. It's painful at first, you're tired, but then when after about a month, it's in your schedule, then it becomes natural. And that's what you want to try to do. Who else has something that works?
I'm very similar to Austin. Got Outlook calendar for work and after school activities. I keep my little planner with me. And I also have a big old whiteboard in the closet behind me that has a list of everything I need to do. School, work, personal, and life.
Yes, because it's so important to keep your your personal and family stuff in there too. Otherwise you get burnt out. I know for me, if you go into my office at work, I have probably 3 or 4 calendars. I have a big one where when people come in, we can plan together and put everything down. Then I have my Outlook, and then I have one specifically right on my desktop that I can write real quickly on and then transfer. So it just keeps me in check. And of course, we have our watches, we have our phones, everything else. Who else has something that works for them?
I put on my phone for different things I need to do by the ringer. So when it goes off, I know what I need to be doing. I'm down to the hour because I just to keep me going through the day and not spend too much time on one thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to separate it out, isn't it? Because I know like on my Outlook, I'll have walk time, lunch time, just office socializing time. I have to put all of it on there. Otherwise, I'll just keep working and then I don't interact. And then that's not a good thing either. So it's the same thing with this. Now, the next part of the time management, so you have to figure out some way, intentional way, you guys, you have to get it on that calendar. Block out some time. Now you have to figure out when is a good time for you to do this. Early mornings, late at night, midday. When's the best time for you to sit down, perhaps read an article, synthesize it, and write a paragraph? All right, so make sure that it's time, because you don't want to give up your family time. But you need to block out, certain times for them, also certain times for your dissertation. This is the biggest one I see when people aren't successful, is they have not established a time and consistent time for them to do that. It's not whenever I get time. You have to have a time. Okay. On the set designated writing, thinking for yourself, that's kind of reflection. As you read, let's say 5 articles, then what is the time for you to sit there and synthesize? Are there any themes developing? So it's not just about reading an article and writing a short summary of it, but do you see any themes that are emerging in the lit review? And should you dig further within that? If something keeps coming up in the literature review, do you need to trace that back historically so you get a better understanding? So you have to have that time built in to look at what you're reading in your lit review, what you're synthesizing, and then what's going to be most productive for your research. Where do you want to take it as you're exploring and finding out more information? Okay. Questions on that? fears on this? Fears or, maybe barriers or obstacles you think that you may have on this area?
I would just say it's the belief to tackle the entire thing. And I get that in my mind a lot. I have to just take it one article at a time, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and then build that momentum going in. And just in the last few courses that we've had starting in with cohort 15, that's what I've just tried to tell myself. Take it one thing at a time, and over a span of a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, you'll have progress. But if you don't take it that first start, then it'll be really difficult to play catch up.
Exactly. It's a matter of just start doing it. Like I said, a couple sentences, one paragraph, anything every single day. Build that time and you'll figure out what time is best for you. Anybody else? Joanne?
I just wanted to add that I for myself, I need to work on learning to say no and not adding more to my plate. Especially when, this is now going to be like a permanent fixture of my next 3 years, right? So, or less than 3 years. But yeah, I feel like that, right? That's what my worry is that, I get pulled into something that's going to sort of disrupt a flow that, I'm able to gain by, with the dissertation. So that's what my fear is.
So one of the things I saw and I had to do when I went through my dissertation, I wrote myself a note. I promised to myself what I would do, and I stuck it right there where I was doing all my work. Basically, that I will take this time for myself, even though, I'd like to help others, but I need to take time for myself. And then that left me time for my family and for a little downtown time for myself. And then I wrote a letter to my boss, just explaining my hopes and dreams of this dissertation, what I'm going to be going through on my journey for the next few years, and asked them for their support. So I had to sit down with my boss and let him know that I would like to volunteer more, but at this time I'm going to need to stick to what I need to do for my position. But then afterwards, I'll be able to help even more. Okay, so that has to be a discussion with your boss, your colleagues, your family, your friends. Everybody needs to know that this is your time. And it's like having another job, you guys, because your brain is constantly thinking of your dissertation. And so you have to take that downtime for yourself to make sure you're doing your self-care. Okay, and it's not selfish, because I know all of you, basically, you're all helpers, you're all extra above and beyond. But the above and beyond right now is going to be for your dissertation. So you've got to come to grips with that, I think, first, and then give it to everyone around you. Just have that conversation with them so that you have time. Your family knows when that time is. Your friends know that you might not be involved that much for the next, couple of years. And hopefully we can get it done in 1.5 years, you guys. And that's what our hope is, to give you enough tools so that you can get it done and not for it to be lingering, because it is a process and not everybody can do this. You've got to put all your skills in this in order to do it. And that's why it's an honor when you get that doctorate degree. Okay. All
Can I just
right.
piggyback off of what Dr. Sumbera said? Because I'm in cohort 14 and I've done this before, but I just needed to pick me up, so I arrived today. I had to sit down with my boss too. And just had a meeting last week, and he said, I just want you to know, next year, I'm only going to give you classes for 1 grade level because I know you're doing your dissertation. So if you let them know, it is amazing how many people will whatever little they can, support you. But if they don't know, and you just start saying, no, I can't do this, no, I can't do that, then they take it negatively. But if you tell them you're doing your dissertation, they're impressed by that and they're very supportive. So just letting you know, she's right.
And yeah, and you also, they feel like they're helping you get your dissertation. They're a part of your dissertation and they're honored to be a part of it. So thanks, Elizabeth. Good to see you. And we also have Adolfo is from another cohort too. So appreciate having you guys here. In any wealth and knowledge you guys have, please share your journeys too. All right, so let's get back to this. So
I just wanted to say something real quick. The JSTOR, if you are, you know what an idea of what you're going to be, your subject matter is, and you sign up for JSTOR and you put in, it's the, you know, look, it's the research papers that are on your topic, they will start emailing those suggestions to you. And that's almost like a reminder every day of, oh, this is of interest to you. Yes, you need to be back on your dissertation. I just
if you can, Elizabeth, if you can put that link in the chat, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Now, the next part is, you know, we're going to look at building your team. So not only your dissertation team, your committee, but also building your team to help you stay on track. And that usually comes from your cohort, but it can also come from somebody who's gone through the process that you know that has their doctorate, they understand, and meeting with them. I know a couple of people who meet with somebody in their organization at least once a month about their topic, and they give them more input. It's not the person on their committee, but somebody else. And then I also know of teams who they have 3 or 4 people, and once a week they check in. It's called their critical friend check-in for their dissertation. And they help them get over that writing hump or, you know, procrastination hump. And so it keeps them going. Sometimes this journey is not efficient when you're doing it all by yourself. You have to get connected, because at times you're going to be low and they can encourage you, and then you can encourage them back. So I would recommend from here going forward, you have 2 or 3 people that you meet with on a regular basis. It could be 20 minutes a week. You just check in, hey, how are you doing? You know, it re-energizes you in order to move forward. Okay. Another one is setting those goals. So for the rest of the semester, what is your goal towards your dissertation? So chunk it out, semester, and then when do you want to complete your dissertation? Do you want to complete it, you know, by next fall 2023? Do you want to complete it by spring 2024? When do you want to complete your dissertation? And then you have to communicate that to your chair. And realistically, so you guys can do a timeline. Once you put a timeline to every single component in your dissertation, then you have a kind of a roadmap that keeps you on task. So I know Jess is coming at the end of this session. And one thing I was impressed about her timeline, she had it in a table and she put everything that she needed to do, even the little things in there, and had a timeline, had notes on it. She was just very efficient on keeping herself in check. And she was a very busy woman. She teaches at the university, and she knew she had a lot of things on her plate. And so she kept that timeline and kept to the timeline. Okay. And then use those milestones to, you know, check, okay, so I need to get chapter 3 done by this date. And then I need to polish chapter 1 and 2 so I can do my proposal by this date. All right, it's only going to work for you. Now, if you don't make that date, adjust it. You know, you might be off by a week or might be off by 2 weeks, but don't keep adjusting it. Hold yourself accountable to what you're doing. And then, of course, always use resources. One of the things I learned going through dissertation, I recommend for the individuals to do, is on the internet, there's all kind of motivational, this is how you do this for your dissertation. This is how you keep yourself engaged. I would listen to one of those at least once a week. And it kept me engaged, you know, because everything they were saying was exactly what I was feeling. So it didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm not doing what I need to. It's a normal feeling. And it just kept me going. So I'd listen to one of those probably a week, every week, just to keep my energy going. Okay. All right. Now, assembling your team. This is pretty much, I didn't have a single one, or Audrey didn't have a single one of Acevedo, but she has, this is Audrey's dissertation picture with her. And so we put that one in. But your team right now, this is your team of support. Reach out to them. Audrey, we are so blessed to have Audrey because she really helps the students and helps encouraging them and get them going. Okay. All right, so with this, how many of you have your chair? Does everybody have their chair already?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thumbs, I see the thumbs up. Hi, Lisa, looks like you joined us. All right, so everybody, Joanne, do you have your chair yet? Okay, so we'll work on that. You reached out to them though, if I remember right. Okay. All right. All right, so on your chair, that's the first thing. And then you have, Sharif, I didn't see yours. Angelica, Michael, you guys have all chairs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay, Angelica, so we have two. Michael, you have your chair? Okay, so we have two, so I'll work with you guys and see where we're at and get a little bit more discussion on that, because I want you to all to end today with at least seeing if we can support you if we need to reach out to them, okay, for the chair. So we should have our chair, and then you filled out the form and you're going to get your chair to sign that. But once you have your chair, then it's a whole conversation. Spend about 3 weeks, once a week, talk to them to make sure you are compatible, that you're moving forward, and how you're going to work together. So how are you going to work together? Will they meet with you once a week? Will they meet for an hour, 20 minutes? What's their expectations for the meeting? Okay. So once you get all that down, then you need that conversation. Who else do you need on your committee? And that's very important because now you have a team. So let's go through that. It should be the faculty list. Let me see if I can find it in yours. Some general resources. No. All right, I'll give you the link once I click on it. Here. So we'll pass faculty and fellow descriptions. Okay, so with this, you can take a screenshot. You have core faculty who will be your chair. That's who you can pick from. Okay, so your core faculty is down here, and these are listed right here. These are the core faculty that can be chair, this column right here. Now for your committee member, you have your affiliate faculty. Okay, and these can be your second committee member, the second reader. So you want to look through that. And then your third one that you can have, that's your affiliate, that's your second. The third one, you really want to work with your chair because you want somebody who's an expert in your content area. And this is why. You have your core, they're going to keep you on track, get you writing, get you doing everything. Your affiliate faculty is one who is going to support you in an area, let's say they're an expert in methods, or they're an expert in the conceptual model, in a school district, or they teach it. So that's the affiliate factory. But the third one is somebody who gets to the heart of your dissertation, and they can check if you're on the right track, not on the right track, as far as the content. If you're doing, like I did model continuation high schools, well, I needed somebody who was an expert on model continuation high schools to make sure I wasn't saying anything that was not really applicable. Okay. So get somebody who can really help you align yourself with the critical components within the heart of your dissertation. That can be somebody from your work. They have to have a doctorate. All right. And then you give the name in and we fill out some paperwork. Or another professor who's an affiliate that you feel would contribute to your dissertation. Okay. Questions
Dr.
on this?
Yeah, Dr. Sumbera, just to be clear, they don't have to be affiliated with CSUSB. They just need to have a doctorate in the area of specialization they're willing to look into.
Yeah, for your third reader. Your second reader is affiliated. They're on that list down here. So they are on the list for your second readers. And then basically anybody that you feel is an expert. Now, some people, what they do as they do their lit review, they find an expert that has done an article or something within the field that really is right on, and they get them to be their third reader. Others will do it in their work environment. They have a third reader from their work environment, but don't just pick anyone, you guys. This is the key to a successful dissertation, is having a great committee. One that understands you, can work with you, can motivate you, and two who are experts in that area that you want to research. Very critical. So don't rush this process. Talk to your chair. It takes a few weeks to get that. I usually don't assign the third one until after the lit review is done. As a chair, I like to hold off until they really find out who they need to support them in that area. Okay, but have a few in mind. Now, the critical thing about this, once you ask somebody for your chair, it's not appropriate to say, oh no, I fire you as my chair. Okay, so slow down, take your time, decide on who you want as your chair. Same thing with the committee member and your third reader. Once you ask them, it's a privilege to be your chair. It's a privilege to be on your committee. They take it to heart that they really want to support you. There may be conflicts personally. You might not like what they say, but remember, always remember, they're saying a comment to help your dissertation to be better. They're not saying it to offend you or, say you don't know what you're doing or any of that. That's not the intent. Their intent is to have the best dissertation for you as possible. And Dr. Romano, would you agree with that?
Completely. Absolutely right. Yes, Becky. It's important to understand that the process will bring, as it is, a personal stress to the writer. And sometimes I think of myself as a student, sidetracked it, and my chairs were the ones who get me back on the road. So their comments, sometimes it took it as, oh, he's mad at me. No, it's not. It's just trying to bring me back to the position that I needed to be and move forward. So what Dr. Sumbera said, absolutely, don't take it at heart. We are trying to help. We want you to graduate. So we always we'll support you the best we can.
Yeah, and if we have a failed dissertation, we feel like we failed you. It's not, we want to make sure that we support you. Again, it's your journey. We're going to take you on your journey. We're not going to force anything. It's always your choice. We're going to make recommendations that we think would make your dissertation better. Okay. Questions on your committee. First, get that chair and have some conversations with them. They will have tons of recommendations for you to pick from. And it's also important when you're picking your committee that everybody on your committee actually is on the same wavelength. Because sometimes you'll have, I ran into it before, we had, the chair had one way, a committee member had another way of doing, maybe the lit review, and then the fellow had a different way. So it's very important that these conversations happen with your dissertation chair. What's the structure they want? And all the committee members need to understand this is the structure you're moving forward to, because this is your dissertation. And just keep that in your head. This is your dissertation, but we're there to support and guide you. There are some protocols we're probably going to need to follow. But again, how can we help you get this done? All right. Any fears or questions or comments on how to get my committee, a good committee together?
Yeah, I have a question, Dr. Sumbera, about the outside community fellow. Will we just do our own research on that person? Because you said they all have to be on the same page. Is it something that we would like? I know that Dr. Baca has sent a couple of suggestions my way. So will we do our own research on that and then connect with our dissertation chair for the next step?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would talk to your chair after you do, you find out, what they're interested in and everything else, then take it back to your chair and have that conversation. I'm thinking of this person, and this is why I think this person would be a great third reader. What would they bring to your committee? Dr. Romano?
Yes, and to emphasize it, look at the possibilities of someone in your area that you feel like you can communicate, because if sometimes between the board member of the committee members, there might be a mismatch in ideas, and you want that third member to be your supporter, but not the one who keeps you from moving forward. So be selective, I will say it, and also take that time. You don't need to do this right away. Just wait until you start talking to your chair. He or she will give you some ideas about who to look for. Share with them who might be that person. They might ask you what are the skills, what's the knowledge, and they will try to see if that's a good fit or a good match as well. So don't rush it. Just first talk everything with your chair. I think that's the key here is important is that you talk to your chair all the time about this. Mm-hmm. And I will be quiet because this is very important for Dr. Sumbera.
Yeah, so make sure, everybody's on the same page, but you have to build that relationship with your chair. You have to know your chair, read their dissertation. If you have a chair right now, read their dissertation, read their publications, see how they write and what they're interested in. All of that is extremely important because you're building a relationship. You're going to be on this relationship, pretty intimate relationship for the next couple of years. So you want to make sure that you're approaching it and coming to the same, you're going on the same journey. You're not struggling on that journey. Okay, you want to be with your dissertation chair, with your committee. You want to move forward. I think some of the things I've seen over the past 5 years is when the committees don't work for the student, it's because there is no relationships. So make sure you have that. Okay. All right, so let's go back here. Next, we're going to go into what's the role of your dissertation chair. So you should have this document, and we're going to look at page 28, 29. So let me pop it up here. It's your doctorate guidelines. And let me go to 28. Okay, so it's not going to go there. So close your eyes real quick. Usually it'll go there, but for some reason it's not. Almost there. Let me blow it up. All right, so role of a dissertation chair. And I'm going to put this up while I'm talking to you so you can read through it. Now, a lot of students think, oh, well, they're going to tell me exactly what to do, when to do it, everything else. That doesn't always happen. It depends on what you establish as the relationship. So most chairs will ask you to schedule a meeting with them, and you schedule it with them. They don't schedule it with you. You have to do the reaching out to your chair. So what is the schedule? How many times a month do you want to meet with them? Twice, every week, at the beginning, once a month. I would suggest no less than, 2 times just for quick check-ins. But some only do it once a month. And they have an agenda of what they're supposed to accomplish that month. And then they come back to that meeting and they go over what they have, bring some questions. So you need to establish that. What is how do you work best, and how does your chair work best? Okay, so basically with this, they're going to help you with the committee members. They're going to help establish some kind of protocol for working together over the next few years. The timeline, you need to review that with them. But usually when I went, and what I expect from my candidates when they come to a dissertation meeting with me, is they have a list of questions or topics they want to discuss. And they will, let's say it's chapter 2. They'll bring their updates to chapter 2, and then they'll discuss what I'm seeing in the literature is a few themes developed. These themes I see are developed. Considering that my focus is here, do you think this is aligning to what my research question is? And we explore it. But they have these questions and they come to the meeting prepared. There's nothing worse when you come to a meeting and they don't have the questions. Okay, so then you're not real productive in the meeting, I guess. You're not seeing what they've done, and you're not able to move them forward as a chair. So our intent in these meetings is you talk about where you're at, what you found, any issues that you're running into, and let us guide you to the next step. Help you get to the next step, and then we can keep moving this process forward. So always bring to your chair, it's your autonomy, again, bringing that in there. You bring your questions, your findings so far, your what ifs, any of that into the discussion. All right, so let's talk about that. What is that? How does that feel for you? Is that comfortable?
It
So
just
if you-
puts the onus on me to get organized and to be clear and to drive the boat rather than expecting that I'm going to sit in the back seat and have my chair drive it for me. I have to take responsibility for it.
Exactly, Lisa. That the whole meeting is that you are driving the meeting, not the chair. We've done our dissertations. So you need to drive the discussion. Then it gets to a new level. If we have to drive the discussion, you have to remember we might have 5 students that we're chairing, and we might not know the intimate details of your dissertation, everything that you just did. You do. So by you leading that discussion, we're able to, okay, yes, You know, there's another researcher over here that actually says something against that. We can give you that information. But until we, you know, it takes time to read all your lit reviews. And every week, if you revise them, that takes time too. Maybe that week we didn't get to it. So you're trying to give them a little summary at the beginning of everything you did that week, what you have found, and then we'll help you take that exploration to the next level. And I found that to be most effective. And utilizing the strength of your chair is what is extremely important for you. Okay. Other comments or questions? Okay. All right, so the next one, what is the role of your committee? Now, this one is really important if you go to page 30, because I've had a couple of little nuances. The role of the committee, your dissertation chair is the main person. They rule on everything. So if a lit review should go this way, they're going to tell you the guidelines and keep you on track. Now, if you have a committee member, you're going to review portions of your lit review, they might say, oh, you should do a lit review this way, but then your chair said to do it this way. And so there's some conflict. So don't try to tackle it by yourself. Just go back to your chair and say, one of the committee members seemed to think that possibly I could do the lit review this way because, it's more in communications versus education. This is how they do it. How should I approach this with them? Or would you like to approach it for the whole committee? Don't think you have to be the in-between of your committee members and your chair. Your chair is always right there to help guide and work these issues out. And that's pretty common. And then the chair will talk to the committee member. This is what we're moving forward with, and we're going to work on it this way. And they're usually just, okay, that sounds good to me. Okay, so don't let it escalate. Talk to your chair about all those. It's not going to hurt their feelings. They're not going to get angry. It's more of a communication issue because at different universities, the committee members have different roles. All right, so I would always refer this page though. Oh, we're going to go through this again. Okay, it should go in there. So we're on 30. All right. Let's blow this up. All right, so what is your committee member? If they say, what do I need to do? All right, one, they're like the cheerleader, your committee members. They're going to keep you going, everything else. So that moral support is great. But they're actually going to be the people who review chapter 1 through 3, your proposal. And with your committee, they vote to say, yes, you're ready to move forward to do your IRB, to start your research. So their role is to read that chapter 1 through 3 and give an honest feedback to you after your proposal. Is this sound enough for me to move forward on my research? If not, what do I need to change? Okay, it's not finding everything wrong, like spelling errors, everything, but it's giving you some guidelines. If you move forward, I would really like to see you have an editor or put this through here. If you move forward, I think you need to hone in your question. Okay, so they're going to give you constructive feedback so that you're successful. There's nothing worse than getting no feedback, chapters 1 through 3. You do this whole research and then you have no data to show for it. Okay, you don't want to be in that position. So it's good that you're getting this construction feedback. Their role is to attend this proposal and also be a part of your dissertation defense, okay, which means a lot of reading for them. So within 3-week period, they have to read your whole dissertation, give you feedback. So that's a lot of responsibility, okay? Review chapters, okay, we did that, 10 dissertation final defense, and then they'll sign all the documents, okay? Now for the third reader, outside reader, I am told that we're not doing any reimbursement. So this is because they really want to see you succeed. Okay, so there's no extra pay or anything else on that. And you'll have to check with Audrey on that, but that's, from the last I heard, that's what it was. The second reader does get, the affiliate does get some credit, and then your chair does get some credit also. Okay. Questions on your committee, what they're responsible for. So it's not much. So they can only do this, or they can also give you, I've had some that have really been great supporters behind the scene, meeting with them and just keeping them going, kind of the cheerleader part of it. So this is the minimum that they need to do. Questions on the role of the committee? All right, so those are always guidelines to make sure you go over with your committee members, okay? Now we talked about accountability, and a little bit about this is communication, communication, communication. I have people that I'm chairing, they text me, they call me, and they'll call me when they get stuck. So it could be at 8 o'clock at night. They text me, do you have a few moments? Okay, I'll hop on for 10 minutes. They said, I'm stuck. I want to do some work tonight, but I'm kind of stuck. This is what I'm stuck on. And so it's very important you don't stay stuck. It's very important that you reach out and say, I'm here, I'm trying to write, but nothing's coming out. Okay, and let's have a short discussion. I could be walking, walking the dog or anything. We'll have a short discussion to see if we can move you forward. You should be able to count on your chair for that. Get their limitations. How do they like to correspond with you? Text, phone, only email? That will be up to your chair. So you have to establish that communication protocol. What's the limits, time limits? During the day, nothing past 7 o'clock. No weekends. You have to establish that each chair is different because they have different lives. So please establish that protocol with them. But I would suggest meeting regularly at a set time that you have established. So either it's weekly, bi-weekly, that you're meeting with them and you need to have something done. Usually if we have a deadline, we have to have that done. All right, and then that last statement down there, it's your responsibility. I've heard a couple of times, well, my chair didn't tell me. It's not going to come. Remember, you're a doctorate. You're going for your doctorate. We're not in undergrad. Undergrad, yes, we'll tell them. Graduate school, we lay off of that a little bit. It is but we do send reminders. The doctorate level, you're at the level that you have to do your own reminders. Okay, we're there to guide you. And I've had one that we do meet occasionally for lunch, and we talk about things over lunch. All right, so it's up to you and your style with your dissertation chair. But sometimes they do like to see you face to face in their office, anything else, so they can go over things. Okay. Questions? I think you're all pretty good with this. I think you just have to figure out, you and your chair, how you're going to work together. All right. Now, to meet some more faculty so you can get your committee, we have a date, April 4th from 5 to 8, where different faculty members are going to come on, tell you about their experiences, their research interest, so that you can put faces to the names and see who else you might relate to. That's very important. So mark that date. And again, that faculty list is there that I showed earlier. Okay, so Audrey will be sending more out about that. So once you have your chair, have you guys all completed this form? The dissertation chair form. How many of you have completed that? I know I haven't signed any.
Does
Alright.
it have to be signed when all three are in place, or do we do them one at a time?
You can do one at a time.
Okay,
Yeah, so you can get your chair to sign it for now.
Okay.
And then later, once you add the other ones, you would add the other ones and then get them to sign it. Okay. So the main thing is who's going to be your chair. Ask your chair, to get that going. You can do that Adobe sign form. So in the, let me get too many windows open. Let's close that. All right, so in the folder, I believe you do have the forms. Why am I not seeing forms? Oh, here they are. All right, so it's in the, if you go to the folder and you go to general resources, it's dissertation forms and templates. All right, and Audrey's done a nice job of putting everything in there. So if we go to dissertation forms, wow. And then we have to go to forms for 14 and 15. And then it's a whole list of forms that you're going to be filling out throughout your dissertation process. And it looks like she has them pretty much in order. So the first one would be your committee and just kind of a checklist. So this form here, it talks about, have you done this? You go through and you initial every single one that you've done. It keeps you, this is what I need to do for my whole dissertation. All right, look through that real quick. And I'll see if I can give you the link, direct link. All right, so take a look at this little list here. Have you guys seen this list before? Have they given this to you? Okay, so you've ran through that, but this is everything that you'll need to do. And we'll go down the line and get to the next one. Oops. Let's close that. Okay. There's just too many there. General resources, dissertation templates. So let's do this, forms. All right, so the second one, annual student review. So what they're doing here is you'll be filling this out. And are you progressing in your dissertation? This will be filled out. First year, it's done by the department. Second year, it's done by your chair. And third year, by your, it just continues with your chair after that. So are you progressing and doing what you need to do? Again, this is a program you should be done in 3 to 5 years. After 3 to 5 years, they figure the ruling is you will need to take classes over again or take comps over. Okay, so you don't want to be in that situation. You should be able to do this. The average is 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, but you should not want to go to 5 years because now at 5 years, your classwork, your coursework, everything is obsolete according to, Chancellor's office, how we got approved, which means you would have to take all your courses over. However, the department has decided that you won't take all the classes over, but you will take comps over to see if you're still competent in the area as the information has changed. All right, so you would have to review again. You would have to retake comps, and then they would okay to keep moving you forward after that 5 years. All right, so you want to make sure you are done. I would say by your 4th year, you should be done. 3 years is what we're trying for, but life happens sometimes and you might need a little extra time, but try for 3. But there's no disgrace in 4, but definitely by 5. Okay, we're not allowing to go over that anymore because it's not healthy for you and not healthy for your committee either. Any questions on this form? Okay, this goes over your qualifying exam, what you got, all that good stuff. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so this is your qualifying exam form. Once your chair has agreed, oh, I'm sorry, you guys already did your qualifying exam. It's different now. So you did your qualifying exam. And so this form here is what you would fill out. And I think you guys have already done that. The next form is basically, this is your chapter 1 through 3. And have you passed this, okay? The next one is basically finishing off your committee members and getting that approval. Everything has to be documented and approved for your dissertation. It's like almost like a contract, you guys, what you're doing. This is your defense. Again, you would fill out everything and have it ready for your committee at your defense. Okay, they don't do it for you. You are to have this ready for them to sign. Okay, and Audrey is really good with this. She'll guide you through that. Here is for your proposal. So your proposal, chapter 1 through 3, once your chair says, yes, I want you to set a date, you would fill this form out, put the date down, write a little description, put your committee member names in there, and have it ready to go for them to sign. And that's all through Adobe Sign that you would do that. A final defense form, same thing. Now you also have forms after your defense that you have to fill out. And we'll go over those a little bit later, but there's several forms that you need to do that. There is a form. If for some reason there is no way you can work with a committee member again, this is a request to modify your committee. So if that happens, sometimes people move out of the area, they get different positions, you might have to do that, or there's some differences that are change of focus that you need to change, then you would do that. But remember, it's an honor to serve on your committee. If all possible, try to keep your committee as is. Okay. Questions on forms? Were you guys able to get access to that? You guys have access, correct? All right, so look through those forms, put them in order. It didn't look like they were all in order, but put them in order so you know exactly which form to do when. There's one annually, the one that you need to do for your progress.
Dr. Sumbera, I'm in a different cohort 14. Is that I'm getting a message that says this item is not accessible to you?
Yeah, I will let Audrey know that both of you, Adolfo and Elizabeth, so you would probably have to access it to your folder, which was, let me see if I can go back. Well, you were in 14 though, right?
Yeah, and when I went into my old folder, like the email that they sent me, it's not coming up either. It says it's expired. So, I mean, I looked at it a week or so ago.
Huh. Okay.
Looking at it now going,
Interesting. Yeah, it doesn't show me the names, so I'm not sure what to do there. Okay, so we'll make sure your names are on that so that you have that, okay? All right, the other thing in forms, we're going to look at our lit review, and some of the rubrics are in there. All right, so I want you to stand up, move around, take a little breath. Let's take a few minutes, take 5 minutes just to regroup, and then we'll come back 5 minutes, so 10 after 10, okay? So I'm going to pause. All right, so let's move on to the next. All right, so now they've created a new accomplished milestone list. And I don't know if you've seen this, so I'm just going to click on this and we'll go to it. So basically the milestone, it says you've done your first, you've done your second. So we're down here when it gets into, you've done your qualifying exams, correct? No, wait, those are coming up for you guys. Okay, those are in the fall. All right, so you're still here. So these are kind of some milestones that you would check off. And then for your qualifying exams, you will be doing those in the fall of year 2. Okay, so this gives you a little roadmap what to expect. After your qualifying exam, they do a basically, have you completed all your coursework successfully? So those are the components. If all that goes, then you're starting on your dissertation. Okay, and that would be in the spring, chapters 1 through 3. And then we have a timeline. And then hopefully we can get you 1 through 3 in next spring, and then start on your IRB during the summer, you know, writing it. If you can get it all done, then that's a tight timeline. But some people might be able to do that. Okay. And then basically, again, here's that form you're going to need to send out. Okay. So you'll need to send that form out, get that all approved, and that you're on track for that year 2. And that's pretty much every single time you're doing that, every year. And if you go through this, you're seeing that by spring, I think it's 2024, you should be in the position to graduate. Yay! Okay, with your dissertation done, everything, you're walking, and it's so exciting at the ceremony. It's very neat to be hooded. It just is a sense of accomplishment. And if you want, put that date on your calendar, put it in front of you, and work off of, this is what I'm going to do. All this hard work is going to pay off. All right, so use this checklist. Don't just have it here, print it out, put it somewhere, put it on where it comes up on your calendar that you need to check it, whatever you need to do. Okay, questions on this checklist? All right, let's go back here. Timelines. So they have made up a timeline for you so that you can be done in that spring 2024. So let's take a look at that. Go to your folder and get the timeline. All right. So your timeline looks like this. And we're in, qualifying exams are going to be in November, it looks like, November 12th. Okay, so it's November 12th. That's going to be your qualifying exam date. So they've established that for you. Now, what they're suggesting, by March 2023, you need to have chapters 1, 2, and 3 done. Okay, and that's the same timeline. Right now I'm doing cohort 14, and we're in a crunch to get all of them done. And so I have probably 2 done, 1 not done. So we're going to go a little bit longer on 1, but this is a timeline we're trying to hit. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 by the end of March. You should have these 3 chapters done so you can do your preliminary defense. All right, so the preliminary defense must be done by May 1st, at least this year. I think it's the same next year too. And the reason, May 1st, this is a cutoff date from grad studies that we cannot do it after that. So if you don't meet that date, guess what you get to do? You get to wait to next fall. Okay, because faculty's off over the summer. Very rarely will we do a preliminary defense over the summer. Okay, because the timeline is here. So we want you to have it done by May 1st. Okay, it's possible, but this is a date. So now when you're thinking about it, you're only doing your preliminaries in November, you're finishing up your coursework, and then you have to do chapters 1, 2, and 3. So currently, what should you be doing? What do you think? Anybody?
Lit review, reading,
Lit review.
paraphrasing.
Yeah, a couple articles a month towards your defense. You know, if you get a couple done a month, you're going to be ahead of the game. I know it's a lot of extra reading, but make a goal for yourself. How many articles can you do towards your dissertation? I know most of the candidates, they read anywhere from 70 to like 100 different dissertations, articles, books, everything else in order to come up with their lit review. So it's not 20 articles, it's in the hundreds, you guys, up to the hundreds. So you need to read and be an expert in that area. If you can do that, you could make this date. Otherwise, from after your completion of, December, you're going to be doing from December to March, you're probably barely going to get your lit review done if you haven't started reading. All right, so we need to backwards plan and think about what you can do. So by that, if you can do that, you also need to do this city certificate. I would suggest getting that done. And I think you guys had that in a class, right? Did you do that in scientific inquiry, your city certificate?
No, that sounds new to me.
All right, so the city certificate, you have to go, it's a complete course online, and it's at your pace. And you need to complete this so that you understand all the ins and outs about doing research, protecting your research subjects, and not doing any violations. All right, so it's called a city certificate. We have to do it. We have to keep it current for our research also. So it's a self-paced course. You sign up, you take it, but you have to do this city certificate before you submit your IRB because you have to upload your recent city certificate during that time. Yes, Jacqueline is on the IRB committee. Jacqueline, you want to speak on this?
Yes, very important, this aspect. The city is not as scary. It's just a lot of reading and understanding the ethical issues that go into the research, particularly if many of you are planning to work with children. And thank you. And that's what it needs to be part of this training, is that you have it done before you submit your application. And also the IRB, if it is any, I will say something on behalf of the IRB board. Sometimes people feel like they have a bad reputation or they don't like the IRB because we look into all the specifics and the ethical issues that might cause harm to students or to individuals, people, etc., animals. So if we have comments, we'll let you know. And we are here to help you. That doesn't mean that you are not moving forward with your dissertation. We're just trying to help you clear any barriers or any issues that might cause harm. And that is kind of a communication issue too, always keeping up with the communication and helping you understand what things can be done and what you cannot do. We provide you with some suggestions, and it's important that you follow the recommendations of the IRB if you want to get approved. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So city certificate, I suggest doing that over the summer. IRB is after your preliminary defense, chapters 1 through 3. And all these dates you need to set up with your chair. After your IRB approval, then you can start doing your data collection. And data collection, you need to allow, at least 3 to 4 months to do that data collection. And then synthesis of the data is another couple of months, depending on what you're doing. And then final defense. They're suggesting by April 1st, 2024. Okay, that way you get in before the deadline, because there's a certain deadline in order to file to graduate. All right, so you have to make sure, and we'll go over that a little bit more as it gets closer. But that gives you a broad deadline, really quick, but you can do it. All right. Again, that be sure to read that doctorate program guidelines. Very important. Now we're going to go into lit review. The lit review is extremely important, you guys. And I'm going to break down just paragraph by paragraph and then a whole lit review to be able to do this. There's several different products that you can use to keep your lit review. I used Evernote. Some of my candidates use Zotero. Some use Google Folders. I would suggest, yes, you can print it out, but use an electronic format to keep all the articles. And the reason being is you get going, you start writing, and you know somebody said something, a phrase or a content. In order to do that through paper is going to take you 2 weeks. But you can search that phrase in all the articles that you've collected and find out who supports that particular statement. Okay, so it's better to have it in electronic format, and it's also better to do it in a summarized format. Some people keep it in an Excel sheet. I haven't found too many, a lot of people like the Excel sheet to summarize it. What most of the candidates do like, let me see if I can get an example here. On the articles, because they can move through it very, very quickly, is just a one-page summary of the article. I know I have an example. So let me just look through this real quick, get you an example. I thought I had one pulled up. Okay, here it is. Okay. So let me pull one up. And this is something that I would have grad studies do, my grad students do. But they take an article and we decide on questions ahead of time. So this particular lit review, what we did, what did the research do? It talks about, the different topics it brought up. What did the research find? What were the key components, outcomes of this research? And since we were doing this on different implications for school improvement, was what the article was going to be about, what were the possible implications for school improvement? Okay, so we would have questions that we would do for every single article that we did in our lit review. After that, then what I would do is take the data. They summarized it real quick. I would take that data and put it into an Excel sheet. So I would have the complete lit review that they did already, but I would put key terms in the Excel sheet. If I was to put all of that in an Excel sheet, the Excel sheet looks overbloated. All right, so then I would take key components so that from each article, so that I can start seeing themes in the Excel sheet. That's what is good about the Excel sheet. You have all your literature that you reviewed in your Excel sheet, and pretty soon those themes start to come up for you on your research topic. Then it's very easy to sort and organize by themes. You just title them a certain theme, and then you sort, and you see all the authors who may be looking at school improvement, all the authors who think it's about structure, all the authors who think it's about leadership. So then you have those different themes. So when you're writing, you can make a broad statement that you synthesize this research, and these 4 authors believe the main significant thing for school reform might be on leadership. However, these 3 really feel it has to do with structure, and specifically what? You might mention 1 or 2 of them. Okay, so all methods are good, but what works for you? Some people say, well, I outline each article, but that doesn't help because you need to be able to synthesize all the information that you're doing. So Excel sheet is the most popular. Because I like to be more specific in an Excel sheet, I do a summary, then the Excel sheet. So you have to see, and then you have to have the right questions when you're reading, right? Some of the questions might be, what is the methodology that they're using for my topic? What has already, where's the gaps? What are my gaps? Have they only focused on elementary and not higher ed or secondary in my topic? So there's some different questions you need to ask yourself during a lit review to get a true lit review. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios and we're going to just work through structure. Okay, on this lit review, I'm going to go to the rubric. There's a rubric there for literature review. And how we look at the literature review, we look at your coverage. Do you have the appropriate coverage for your topic? Are you synthesizing the goods, the bads, the gaps, the methods? Are you synthesizing everything? And that's what we kind of went over last week in class, that little table that I had, focus and everything. There's different methods. Methodology, are you representing the correct, is your study, and does it support in the literature the methodology that you're using? And then the significance, is this just so what type topic, or is this a really significant topic? So while you're doing your lit review and you keep asking the question, is my topic one that is significant, or so what? So what teacher-student relationships are great. We know that. The literature has said that for years. How are you going to take it to the next level or dig a little deeper into it? And of course, we always look at how you're structuring, writing, everything else. Okay. Questions on the rubric. So this is kind of a guideline for you. Read it, study it, go through it, and make sure you're aware of it. Okay. All right, this is the first lit review paragraph I want you to look at. I'm going to put you in groups. So if you need to do a screenshot of this, do a screenshot so you have it. And you're just going to talk real quickly. What do you see based on the rubric? Is it synthesizing? Is it leading you to something towards your dissertation? Is it the coverage appropriately? So kind of read through it and do that. One of the things I see a lot in literature review, and then they become lit reviews of 250 pages, is that you're not synthesizing. Think of it, if you bore your reader, they're not going to read your dissertation. Okay? You need to synthesize it and be clear of what you're trying to say in each paragraph. So your lit review should, go from broad, and you should be funneling everything coming down to a topic that it's going to support your research. So each area that you're doing, each header that you have, each specific topic, you're trying to funnel it down. The reason this is important for your research is because of what I just mentioned. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it in your lit review. Okay. All right. So let's put you in breakout groups here. I'm going to give you just a few minutes, like 6 minutes. Let me pause this. Okay, everyone, welcome back. We're going to get started. Oops, we're waiting for a couple more. Hang on a minute. All right, now we're ready. Welcome back. And we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to show you real quick. You have the screen. So what we did is we took a look at a paragraph within a lit review. And my point is try to stress that each paragraph is significant, that each paragraph needs to be structured, that you're trying to make a statement about something. Going from paragraph to paragraph, you need to make sure you're using your text wisely and you're not putting a lot of fluff in there, because dissertations are not about fluff, like a report that you do for class. You can do a paper for class and you'll have a lot of fluff. For a dissertation, you need to get to the critical points because it's already long enough. All right, so what did you guys see? Just let's take the paragraph structure. Do they have a topic sentence? Do they have supporting details? Do they have the conclusion there? What do we think?
There were a whole bunch of random facts that were not tied together with a unifying theme. The introductory paragraph, or the introductory sentence, and the final concluding sentence were not connected in any way.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, I'll build off of that. There was a lot of specific stats. I would have liked to have seen something more on the state or local level, but they didn't use the statistics in any specific way to argue to or for. And to summarize, it was like, oh, you're talking about online education for HSI, I'm assuming. So a little unclear there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, the reader should not have to assume that they think that this is what you're talking about. It should be clear, crystal clear.
Excellent. That's what I was trying to get to. Okay. A lot of times a way to go back and check your lit review is read the paragraph and over to the right, write down what you're trying to get across. Read the next paragraph. What are you trying to get across? Okay. If it doesn't make sequentially sense, what do you need to do? Okay. Sometimes you'll write stuff like this and then say, okay, hey, chair, read this and fix it. And a lot of times we have to go in and research and try to tell you what else you can add there and everything else. So what's nice is when you have this, is you make sure before you give it to your chair to read, because their time is very valuable. You want to use their knowledge and time efficiently, is to do this before you give it to them. If you need another week, just tell them, hey, I haven't went through it. I haven't proofed it. Let me, we can talk about these topics, but I'm going to get this to you. Okay. All right. So the next one. This is a 2-paragraph. We're going to look at that. Now, see what else we can find in this one. All right. So it's a little bit more. It's a double paragraph. But again, this is a little bit different style writing. So I'm going to put you back in groups, read through it, and then we're going to talk about it. Did everybody get a copy of that? Because it's not in the power. You guys got a copy? Okay.
Maybe you want to leave the PowerPoint on, share on, so we can go back to that reading, Dr.
Oh,
Sumbera.
take a screenshot, because once you get in your rooms, you won't see the screen. So if you need a screenshot,
Oh, yes,
take a
we can
screenshot.
see that. Yeah, we can see, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody take a screenshot if you need that. All right, so let me start the breakout rooms. Same rooms. Again, just a short time to discuss it.
I'm sorry, I'm getting kicked off of my other one because my laptop is dying, so I had to log on to with my phone. I apologize.
Okay, I'll put you in the room.
Thank you.
Okay, so what do you think? This is actually pretty consistent of what we get as chairs, but we'll get, 20 pages. All right. So is that a lot of time for the chair to be editing?
No.
Okay. So my suggestion, when you write something, meet critical friends and you meet with them and you run by a paragraph or two with your group. Not only is it helpful to you, but it's helpful to them because you guys start writing like a dissertation student. You're writing more dissertation style. Okay. So when you get you don't want to turn something into your chair and all you get is all these comments. And then after about 5 of these, your chair is exhausted. So we want to be helpful, but I would suggest another step would be talk to your cohort members, run this by people. Is this clear? Do you understand it? Because you want people to read your dissertation. You want it to be very clear, very outlined. So take that extra step and it works well because then you get ideas from each other. It's like you're learning together several different topics, but you're learning how to write in this fashion because it's not easy. And then you're ready for publications. Then you're able to synthesize, this, 100 to 200 page document into an article, into a research article. And so the main thing is that if you read 2 paragraphs and you're unclear of what you're trying to say, put that with another 10 pages, it starts to really get jumbled. Okay, so take the time, paragraph by paragraph. Are you being efficient in each of your paragraphs before you go and submit? Okay, and so I think that's the biggest structure. Does your topic sentence align with the information, and did you kind of conclude it a little bit how it applies to your dissertation? Why are you even talking about this particular topic? And if I don't understand by reading that paragraph, when you give me several different paragraphs and several different pages, it starts to get, I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. So that, if I can give you any advice on your lit review, is to summarize your articles and then find a way where you can put key concepts into a table so that you can see the themes developing, the gaps developing, what methodology is developing that you need to use in your research. And then when you start writing, make sure you're very specific in each component that you're writing about, that you're clear and concise and it doesn't jump all over the place. Okay. Now, after that topic, I mentioned publications, and publishing your dissertation should be all of you should publish your dissertation and then write an article on your dissertation. All of you should do that. Okay, it sets the foundation and it gets more people understanding how you add it to the literature. When you publish the journal article, your chair etiquette is they are second author to that because they have edited your dissertation. Okay, so they are the second author when you do your publication on that. That's giving back to your chair for all the time that they've committed. I know a couple of other doctors, they had mentioned that after chairing, their candidate didn't put them as second, and they still talk about it. 15 years later, they still talk about it because they did so much editing to make their dissertation look good. So, again, it's up to you, but that is etiquette of what you would do. And to tell them thank you for their time, basically. Okay. Questions. So we're clear about, make sure you have good writing. And the Writing Center will also help you guys. If you want to take, a page and they can help you write, just tell them what you're writing for, your dissertation, because it's a different genre. of writing. Okay. All right, so let's go to, keep going. We're going to break out into groups, and you're actually going to look at the dissertation, the lit review, and you're going to answer several questions, because the only way you learn this is to do it. How is chapter 2 structured? You know, you're looking at headings, but a good way to look at that is go to the table of contents. And can you, from the lit review, tell exactly how they're going to look, present their literature review and what you're going to get out of it from just the table of contents? Okay, if so, that's a good structure. Then look at the headings they have. What's the purpose of chapter 2? So you're looking for what is the purpose? You're going to answer that question together. How did scholars synthesize the research? Did they do it on the gaps? Did they do it on the methodology? Did they do it on the populations? How are they synthesizing that literature? Okay. What tense? First, third, what tense is it? Okay, writing tense. And is there anything about the author in chapter 2, like making I statements, my study, my viewpoint? Okay, what's the answer on that? You guys should all know that one. Now, you don't have an opinion on your dissertation until you get to chapter your 4 and 5 is, then you start talking about what you did in your research, and 5 is the recommendations. Chapters 1 through 3 is nothing about you and your experiences, nothing. Okay, it's all about the literature and how you're going to do a research in order to add to the literature, in order to fill which gap that's in the literature. Okay. All right, so in the folder, let me get there. Go back out. It says dissertation samples, examples. And there's 4 different ones. Okay, we have employment. Then we have, I think this is mindedness. Okay, and then we have kind of autism with inclusion on a communication frame. And then this one is parent involvement in student achievement. Okay, you're going to pick one of these, and your group is going to look at chapter 4. We're going to do 15 minutes. Okay, probably maybe 10 minutes. We have 5 to debrief. So
Chapter
10
4
minutes
or
you're going to look
chapter 2?
at chapter 2.
Okay, chapter 2.
We're only looking at the lit review. Okay, and you're going to answer those questions that were in the PowerPoint. So these questions right here. Okay, you're going to answer. It's going to be quick, so you're not going to probably be able to read all of it. You're skimming, you're looking through it and trying to answer these questions. So you might even do it as a team of how to do that. All right, so does everybody see the documents? Okay, you're going to pick one of them. I'm going to create 4 different groups. And let me,
Do you mind sharing the link again, Dr. Sumbera?
yeah, let me get there. All these windows here. Okay, stop sharing. Stop.
Okay.
All right, so welcome back, everybody. All right, so a question Elizabeth just brought back to us a little bit ahead of time. How do you know if you're citing enough or over-citing in your lit review? All right. The lit review isn't about one single author. And Dr. Romano and I were just talking about this on a particular student. You don't have 3 paragraphs and you're constantly citing one author. All right. Remember, the lit review is a synthesis of the literature. So you might have one that really stands out, key points, but if you're writing, paraphrasing, putting one author, paraphrasing, putting one author, paraphrasing, putting one author, I'm going to say you're oversighting. Because what I want to see is that you're making a statement about a synthesis of the research, and you might have 3 authors that support that. So now it's not oversighted. I don't need to know what each individual one said specifically. I need to see what the research says over the last 10 years. You know, make it recent, make it, you know, relevant. Background, of course, you're going to be past 10 years, but over the last 10 years, what am I getting? So synthesize the research, but you have to cite everything. And your chair, each chair will be a little bit different on that. So you need to go by what your chair guidelines are. So that's a conversation I would have with my chair. When you say oversighting, what do you mean by that? Can you give me some specific examples? So if I'm oversighting in these 3 paragraphs, what would be your recommendation? Get on the same page with them before you do any other writing, okay? All right, so, Romano, Dr. Romano, go ahead.
You know, you might want to go back to the slide that you showed for the literature review with the 2 paragraphs. To share with the students how like 3 authors are talking about one topic, and this is how probably you would like to construct in reference to what Elizabeth was saying, is what are these, for example, the last paragraph where it says 2 factors that increase. Do you see that sentence? Okay, so you have Kenworth, Garrett, in trainer, and then they missed something over here. But these 3 authors talk about the same topic that this sentence, that's the synthesis. Right?
Yeah,
so you don't
so
have to come up with only one, going back, is try to see if which of these authors connect on the same idea. And then you reduce that, Elizabeth. I hope
and
that
the
makes
only way you're going to see that if you have your research table done.
Right.
All right, so you need your research table and what themes are popping up so that you can write. If you don't have that done, you can't start writing yet your lit review. You can write a summary of each article, but the lit review is not a summary, correct? It's not a paper. You have to go a little bit higher. It's a synthesis. So if you look on the Bloom's taxonomy, you're up there. You're creating something new. You're not summarizing something. You're creating, what do you see in the literature? Very important distinction on that. Okay, and it's hard because we've always had to do reports in classes. These are just reports. So coming from a report to a lit review is totally different. Okay, so we have to break that mindset. I think that's the hardest one. All right, so what are some of the things that we found? I think group 1 had some good points. You guys want to share some of the things? You guys talked about funneling, how it connected.
It was very easy to pin drop onto any sentence in any paragraph and really clearly understand what the author was trying to say. You didn't need to go backward or forward in any given paragraph to understand the meaning of one sentence. Everything was clearly, there was plenty of citations in there, but none of it interfered with the reading, with the clarity. And it started up here and built down into everything, got more focused. It started very high level and then funneled down into very specific individual headings that were very clearly delineated among the headers and the subheaders.
So, and other groups can answer this too, not just group 1. When you looked at the table of contents, could you tell what you were going to be learning in the lit review or looking at? Anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, Article 2, Group 2, the table of contents was very clear. In addition, the author summarized on both ends of the chapter. She was very transparent in the front end about what to expect, what to see, what you're going to get, and on the back end summarized everything again. And she also took a very funnel-based approach, but I almost felt like it was more equitable in the sense of she gave us the 5 concepts that she was going to look at and really unpacked those 5 because it was going to lead into how it relates to what she was going to research.
Mhm.
So I appreciated that approach.
Okay, and what about the tense? Did anybody see what tense? Was it in the I tense? Did you see any of that? Okay, remember, what tense is it in?
Past tense?
Okay, right. It's you're reviewing the research that has already been done, right? So you're synthesizing that. Anything else anybody would like to add about chapter 2? What did you see? You guys are quiet today.
Well, I did notice that it didn't have to be as long as we thought it had to be. In my mind, in the way, yeah. So I thought it had to be like super duper long. I mean, not that it shouldn't be something that's healthy and fruitful, but I think it's more like you were saying earlier. Oh, sorry, my dog just snores super loud. So you are, like you said earlier, we don't have to wordsmith everything, and you said that in the class as well. I think kind of keeping it in mind that being concise and clear, having the literature and the research to back up what we're saying in a logical way, I think is what I learned from them.
And I think I do the LRQs to help you in the paraphrasing, to help you realize you can say it in one sentence. You can say it in a paragraph. How do you do that? Because that's real hard, isn't it? It's a different type of writing. So always remember that. If you have me on your shoulder pointing at you, synthesize, smaller. How can you say that quicker? Because then you have a nice size lit review and somebody's actually going to read it. Okay, so you want them to read that. All right. Well, our special guest here, Dr. Jess Nairn, she's here. So I'd like to introduce her. And she's going to talk. She's finished her dissertation early, and she's just going to tell you about some of the tips that she did. And then you can ask her some questions, because I think the most valuable feedback that we can give you is hearing from others. And I invite you to reach out to other previous cohorts that have completed. You have a list of all their dissertations, reach out to them and see what they did. Any of those conversations are great. So Jess, you want to introduce yourself? And by the way, she now has a book on her topic. She has 2 articles on her topic, and she just finished in December. So she has a lot to offer, for especially for those of you who want to get published. So she's kind of a rock star right now. Go ahead, Jess.
Hi, everyone. I recognize a lot of you from when I stopped by Dr. Hannah's class, so it's good to see you again. Thank you to Dr. Sumbera for having me today. I am Dr. Sumbera's biggest fan. I owe so much to her. I've learned so much from her. When I hear her talking about the dissertation process, it like brings back so many memories of so many like positive meetings that we had through my own dissertation process. It feels like home, right? Hearing these conversations again. So it's really good to see everyone. Dr. Sumbera is correct. I did finish early thanks to being under her guidance and support as my advisor and my chair. People told me it couldn't be done when I did it, to be honest, right? Even when I interviewed for the program, I said, I want to finish early. I see a pathway to finish early. Can I do this? And I actually got laughed at in my interview. And I was told nobody could ever do that and that it was silly for me to think of it. So I smiled and nodded like how you do when you're being interviewed and you're hoping you just get accepted to the program. And I kind of tucked that away in the box and put it on a shelf and said, I'm still going to try, you know, even if I get laughed at, I'm still going to try. Right. And by the grace of the powers that be and by the encouragement and support of Dr. Sumbera and Edna Martinez, who was my advisor for the first year before you begin to form your committee and all that good stuff, they helped me realize my dream, right? And So what I did is not for everyone. But it's nice to know the range of what's out there and what can be done, right? And it's, you know, I'm a parent, I work a full-time job, I work another full-time job on top of that full-time job. My child is a child with special needs who's a survivor of cancer. Like, my life is not easy or simple or streamlined, but it can be done. And so it's good to know that range of options so that that way, like, you have the full menu in front of you as you proceed through the program, right? Because I didn't have that. I was told that's not on the menu. Like, don't worry about that. That's not on the menu. It's impossible, right? So there's many things that are possible, including this, including totally different things. If it would be possible, Dr. Sumbera, I think I can share my screen. Let me try it really quick. I'm gonna just share a couple of visuals. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is me walking a couple months ago. This was, I think, December 11. This is Dr. Sumbera hooding me. And, you know, it was something I dreamed of my whole life. My research was about, I was really driven by topics related to my son with autism and the way that I had to navigate and be involved in his navigation of his path through general education. And so I always dreamed of walking and becoming a doctor, and I'm so honored, you know, to be hooded by Dr. Sumbera. But I have a couple tips for you today. Oh yeah, and then this is my like defense when I found out that I actually like passed my defense. You know, some of my colleagues were there, my chair, my committee. So it's all possible, and it's just good to see, you know, like that it's a real thing, and that like regular people do this. Like, I'm not anyone special at all. I'm a regular human. And I was able to do it just like you're going to be able to do it. So I have a couple tips for you, and I have a couple of visuals to go along with that too. But my first tip is to just obsessively organize. Right. So these are steps kind of farther ahead in the process from where you are currently, right? But as my IRB got accepted, I realized there were 1,000 more steps in the process than I even realized, right? It's like on paper, and then you got to go do it. And just kind of rounding up your study participants and making sure that you don't violate your own IRB that got approved. All of a sudden, something that seems like one step needs to be broken into smaller steps, And so this was something that like I made, and I would review with Dr. Sumbera, my chair, to say, how do I do this? Like, what do I do next? What, am I thinking of everything I need to think of? Is there a reason for me to do it in a different order, right? So just sequencing and structuring and organizing. Which kind of leads me to my second thing, which is, I'm going to share in and out, but nobody gave me an engraved invitation, right? Rather, people laughed in my face and told me it couldn't be done. Nobody's going to give you an engraved invitation either, right? I had members of my own cohort who were like waiting for someone to tell them that they should start. You should start right now today. If you're able to, if it's possible for you, right? Sometimes things are not possible for us, and that's okay too, right? Just like anyone, I had my own ups and downs within the program, but there's never going to be a day where you're going to be like rallied together, and like, there's not going to be, a ribbon that's, cut by an official, and then like the gates are going to open, and then you're going to start to dissertate. Like, you can start this today, and honestly, you probably should, right? Because it's a very self-motivating process. But I definitely saw that contrast within my own cohort of folks that were like, they were waiting, but there's no reason to wait. It's okay to start, right? And it's going to be different at different times, which leads me to my next tip, which is self-care, right? So I had a child with autism in COVID school while I myself was in COVID doctor school. So I had to keep my child with autism whole and myself whole while trying to navigate these new surprises that were happening within my own program. And so we did COVID school together on the road a lot. Like I would meet with Dr. Sumbera from the van, from strange, weird, interesting places around the state. And it sounds really weird, but you know, like this is my son studying in this image. That was me too, a lot of times. And it helped us to not feel as locked down as we otherwise would have, given the context of the situation that we found ourselves in. Now, that was a really unique situation, but at the same time, I feel like when I think of my research, I think of all these fond memories that I had, you know, with my family in all of these beautiful, amazing places. And like, it makes me even prouder of the work that I did, right? So that leads me to my next tip. Use your strengths, right? For me, in my line of work as a teacher, as a professor in the Department of Communication Studies, and then also as a publicist in the agency that I own, I have to sequence tasks a lot, right? So that's a strength I have. A weakness is I'm very practically minded, but that can be a strength too, right? So know your strengths, know your weaknesses. I just played a video the other day for my own students about Kobe Bryant, and he talked about this, right? He was like, I was a terrible jumper, so I needed to figure out something else to do besides jump. Right. I was less good at this, but I was kind of okay at this. So I needed to make that even better to compensate for how I was in this. So your strengths are your strengths, but your weaknesses can be your strengths too, because they can guide you to stronger strengths in these other areas. And then, yeah, I mean, I would just say organize, organize, organize. Know your program really, really well. If you don't have a copy currently, like in your files, able to be referenced of your like your program handbook, have one today, like download it today and get to know it that well. Like that is your program Bible, and that protects you, right? When someone says, well, I don't really know how this is, or if you're like, well, how do I get graded on my dissertation? Or what happens after I do my comps? All of that's in there, right? Because you're gonna always wanna be thinking one step ahead. We're like, what is the thing you need to do today? What's the thing you need to do tomorrow? And what's the thing that you need to do 2 months from now? And be working a little bit on all of those all the time, right? Because some things, they go way longer than you think. For example, my IRB took like 2.5 months. I have no idea why. It was like Dr. Sumbera and I, we were both losing our minds. It took so long. And some of it was like my own fault because it just kept going back into circles so many times. And some of it was, there was a vacation in the middle, but it took far longer than anticipated. Some of it was just the steady drip of one question at a time, then kicking it back into IRB again. And so kind of them doing it outside of format. That's not great, right? But it took longer than necessary and I needed to be prepared for that. Other things go really fast, right? All of a sudden, when you get a defense date, it's like, here's your defense date and oh yeah, have your slides. So I was working on my slides while I was waiting for my IRB to go through, 6 months before I defended. So it's kind of be a time traveler and think about the whole arc of what you're doing and just put little like tent poles in the ground in these different areas so that way if something all of a sudden goes faster than you think, you can be ready for that too. Because at the end of the day, like it's not good on any of us if we're crying into our hands at night, right? It's too stressful. I can't do it, right? And we've all been there and I don't recommend it. So if there's that one thing that you can do to be ready if something moves surprisingly fast, I mean, that's a good thing. That means your chair has confidence in you. That means that your committee has confidence in you. So be ready for that occasion where everyone goes, yeah, I feel good about this. You can go faster now. Don't slow yourself down if you find yourself if you find everyone else around you like that, where they're like, yeah, keep going, what do you have next? So that's my really brief spiel. I love to talk any questions that you have, but those would be the things. I was on a hike earlier this morning and I was talking with my husband about it. And I was like, these were the things that I wish someone told me, right? These were the things that I'm so thankful for Dr. Sumbera's support. I mean, the only other thing that I would add to that, and it's really, really a gift that Dr. Sumbera gave me, and it's something that I'm going to pay forward to my students as well, is that your like the things that have to be a certain way, you're the expert in your topic, right? And Dr. Sumbera always supported me like in the vision that I had, and she would help me refine my vision. But I hear stories, right? I'm in like the Dr. Mom groups and like areas of support, like find your areas of support. But some of those Dr. Mom groups, people will say like, my chair told me to change everything. So I threw my dissertation in the trash, made a new dissertation, and then nobody likes it. And it's like, yeah, don't do that. I had a committee member that didn't like the first sentence of my abstract and didn't like the opening sentence of my entire like 300-page dissertation. And that's okay. That's her right not to like it, but there was a reason she didn't like it outside the scope of the research that I was doing. And it was my job to go to her and bring additional information to her, right? It's called a defense for a reason, right? Sometimes we have to go back and bring that additional information and say, okay, I want to share this and this and this with you. And now that you're more informed about why it's this way, how would you like me to resolve this, right? Because as we're becoming experts in these topics, sometimes we know something that we have to, like, we need to protect our own good work too. Right. And so I'm so thankful to Dr. Sumbera because she taught me that. And she was always supportive of like, inside us, we know what it is that we're trying to get at best. And then our chair helps guide us to actually get that stuff out. But be prepared, right? Be ready to make edits, but be ready to have a conversation if you know it would lead you astray to make those edits too. So that's it. Those are my tips. Thanks for hearing me out.
Well, thank you. Excellent tips. Any questions? We just went over lit review. Anything on that? Any questions you might have? Anything? You guys just need a break, huh? It's about time. Well, Dr. Naren, thank you very much. She, like I said, she has done wonderful things. Talk a little bit about your intent after you defended and was awarded. You went into, again, writing articles and getting a book out there. So what was your, how did you go about doing that? Because we have several of them two of them that are doing book chapters with me now, and I'm going to start another one on an article.
Cool. Yeah, no, it was funny because, it's such a journey, this process, right? Where, sometimes at the end of the day, I'd be like, I don't think my committee likes my writing very much, right? I'm like, I don't know if I'm good at this. And so you go through this process, and it was always like with love, right? Where I knew that my committee wanted my work to be its best. And they always knew that I could rise to the occasion. And if they set the bar high, I would reach for that bar. And so I always knew it was with love. And at the same time, like sometimes you just doubt yourself, right? And so about a week after I defended, I was spending time with one of my committee members, and she said, your work is really good. I think you should pitch it as a book. And to me, like I was a passenger in her car at the time. I felt like I almost fell out of her car. I was like so blown. I was like, really? I thought you hated my writing. And so, it was really important to me to honor that suggestion that she made to me, because it was so special to me that she made that suggestion. And even I saw one of her committee members in the MA program the other day, and he was like, oh, that same committee member had me read your dissertation as like an example of good writing. I'm like, I felt like I was going to fall out of the hallway again. Right. Because I just we're connected to our work. I was very connected to what I was doing. So because of that, because of Dr. Sumbera, who was like, take this far, like you can take it places, like you can help people with this. And then because, so my study participants were not individuals with autism, but I had individuals with autism come and visit my study participants and speak their truth to them as part of my research. And yeah, I will, Elizabeth, I'll drop the link to my dissertation in chat before I go. But I made a promise to them and the folks who helped facilitate that to happen, that I I would do everything that I could to bring the contribution that they made as far as it could go, right? And so those commitments throughout the process and kind of community checking and having made those promises meant something really important to me. And I want to make good on that because people gave their time and they believed in me. And people, you know, people with autism, like, as a parent of a child with autism, like, you know, my son feels his differences every day and he's reminded of his differences every day, right? And he's working to beat the odds every day. Like there's only 6% of people with autism that go to college and are employed by the age of 25, right? And so if I have something to make that disparity different than how it is right now, like I feel an obligation to bring that forward. So I've been doing my best to try to hustle and get the word out there. I actually submitted to the, I have a presentation with the UDL National Summit that I just handed in on Saturday or Friday as well. And so I pitched a book. I pitched it 3 places. And the first one that responded to me accepted me for a book contract. And so I'm really honored to have some of you in the book. I'm really honored to have some of you as, you know, on the advisory panel. And it wouldn't have happened without Cal State San Bernardino, right? And so I had the tools I needed to take this beyond just a dissertation, right? Like now, a lot of times, like in farther cohorts, they call it like a dissertation in practice. They weren't calling it that yet in our cohort. They just called it a dissertation. So I treated it like, this is what I'm going to go into my job talks for. If when I go for a tenure line job, this is what I got to bring in. And I want nobody to poke holes in it, right? I want everyone to look at it and know that the work is as solid as if it was made anywhere in the entire US or in the entire world. Like that's my goal, is I've sit in job interviews where someone in that job talk is torn apart. And I don't want that to be me. So I better make something good enough that it doesn't happen. And it just turns out, because that motivation was, you know, this constellation of motivations was there, that also facilitated, you know, the journal articles, that also facilitated the acceptance of the book. So my hope is that it helps, like I'm just driven with the idea that maybe I can help someone, you know, and that maybe this might make our world a place where other people 20 years from now don't have to feel their differences as much as my son currently feels his own differences.
And I think that, you know, again, we talked about this. What do you want to be known for? What is your expertise? What are you passionate about? That's going to drive you, and that's going to keep you driving forward to make a difference, to add to that literature, to fill some of those gaps. And so I think all of you have really good topics, and we've talked about that. But Dr. Naren, I thank you for taking your time out of the day. I texted her this morning. I thought, what else do we need? I just wanted you to hear from somebody who had gone through it, okay, to make a connection. But thank you very much. Or anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to agree and say, you know, having that drive behind you, like, I can't let these, you know, I can't let people who invested in me down, right? I care about this so much, it has to exist. That helped me a lot, right? If I was lukewarm about my topic, I wouldn't have finished as fast, and who knows, maybe I wouldn't have finished. But I felt like that connection and that passion, and on the hardest days, right? Because Dr. Sumbera would say, write every day. I don't care if you only write for 5 minutes a day, write every day. And like having that connection to my topic, like, and you'll find it as you go. If you're sitting there hearing me and going, yeah, I don't have that yet, that's okay, right? But you'll find it as you go. But once you have it, it'll really help to drive you on really. So thank you, everyone. It was great to see you again.
Thank you. All
Thank you.
Okay, so we went through the lit review. I cut it short so I didn't have her in the waiting part. Anything else about the literature? I think you guys kind of got it. You looked at it like, okay, here's some examples. It was hard to follow. I wasn't sure where they were going. It needed more information. It didn't connect, versus here's some great outlines. I saw it. It was funneling, right? It was funneling to my dissertation. It let me know exactly what I needed in order to support my research. So basically, when you're finding articles, you're looking through text, you're looking through past dissertations for your lit review, please keep it recent. Find a good sample that you can, like I used to have folders. I really like their methods section. I really like how they did a particular component that I'm going to use in my lit review. I put that in a folder, self-efficacy or whatever, I put them in that folder. So I'd go back and reread how they introduced it, how they looked at it, so that I can kind of get a frame of how I was going to synthesize the literature. Okay, it made it a little bit easier. So make it easier. That's what you should be doing now. Folders, put the articles in, synthesize them, do a little quick summary of them. What are they? Every time you read, do a summary of them. Otherwise, you forget. It's just like classes. One class to the next, if you didn't take notes, you wouldn't remember what it was because it goes really, really quick. Okay. Any other questions on lit review? You guys are all excellent writers. So it's just a matter of finding your method. And Dr. Nairn was correct. It's not about my method. It's not about anybody else's method. It's about your method because this is your journey. And so your journey, you have to direct your journey. And we're not always going to agree. But what we can agree on is if you can support your main, if you have something in your dissertation you really want, you need to support it to your chair and to your committee. That's called the defense. Okay. It's not my opinion or anybody else's, is can you support this? And you have to fight for what you believe in. So don't think that, because we didn't agree on everything. She had a lot of things I asked her to take out. And she would come back and she would tell me why she'd want that. We'd work through it. And it usually was a compromise of something. Okay. So just make sure you're able to do that. And if you need, just have that good conversation. Okay. Questions. We went over a lot of stuff, you guys. And we do have an evaluation. And the evaluation is about, do you feel prepared enough to start, on this first chapter? So your chapter 1, 2, and 3, your lit review. And then going 1 and 3. There's going to be more on methods because method is not my strength area. So I wouldn't be delivering that to you. And that's another thing. Your chair, I'm good at qualitative, but I'm not good at quantitative. So if you did quantitative, I'd have you do your second reader as somebody in quantitative. So that's why you need to talk to your chair to make sure that you have a good committee to support your dissertation. In the chat, I put the evaluation. See if you can all get to that link. Okay. The evaluation, they're asking you a few questions so we can know for this cohort, do you feel prepared? And so if not, what we'll do is try to get something for that session 2 when we do the seminar 2. Make sure that we take this in consideration and make sure you have all the guidance you need. And we do meet as a group and all your chairs meet so that we're able to address this in order to make sure you feel most supported by us. Okay, so put in there what you think. And I know it's hard because it's Saturday and you guys have been on Zoom for quite a long time. Only a couple breaks, but I appreciate you've been very attentive. I think we've covered everything. The forms, you just have to go back and read that and doing that. But just remember on the lit review, talk a lot with your chair on the lit review. Get that outline that makes sense, funnel the information. And then basically, how is it supporting your research? How is it driving you to the conclusion? And this is why I'm researching this in this type of method, in this type of population. All right. So have it support you there. Now there's one last, it wasn't in the PowerPoint, but there is a dissertation outline. And I'm not sure if you got that, so I want to make sure I cover it. Let me just show it to you real quick. Did you guys see this? It's a dissertation outline. And I believe it's in the folder. It's dissertation format, I believe is what it's called. And it talks about chapter 1. What do you need in chapter 1? And this is what we agreed, that in chapter 1, these are all the components. So this would be like your table of content, and then you'd write within each of these sections. Okay. So like assumptions, what assumptions do you need to look at? A lot of times in qualitative, you look at delimitations. How did I reduce my student population? I'm only studying, I'm not studying all of, an elementary school. I'm only studying second grade students. So that's a delimitation. You're taking it down. Terms are very, very important. Defining all your terms. And it's not your opinion what the term is, but basically it is backed by the literature. What is the term? Emily.
Okay, where did you find that out? I'm looking on the forms and I don't see.
Yeah, this was supposed to be in there, so I'm trying to see where it's at.
Emily, I just searched in the search bar approved dissertation.
There it is,
format,
right
and
there.
it came
Yeah.
up.
It's on the back up to the original folder, and it's approved dissertation format right here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. So basically, this will be your roadmap. Print this out, put it on the wall, do something. Each of your chapters, this is your outline. Lit review, it gives you a little summary of what they'd like to see. And then methods, again, you will have more on this before you actually have to write this, your methods. But basically, the setting you're thinking. So when you're looking through the lit review, what settings are they recommending for your topic? What type of conceptual models or theoretical models? How have they collected the data in the past? Is there any surveys that you really like you want to put in a pile? So if you need a survey, you have. Trustworthiness, reliability, that's not too difficult. And you would be able to build that. So this is the format that we have agreed on. And we just, luckily, 14 didn't have this, but 15, you have this now. So please use this. I used something similar when I went through it. I used something similar. Every time you do an article for a journal, you use the same thing. They'll tell you the structure they want, the format. You have to follow it. Okay. All right. So take the time, and I appreciate you being here. Fill out that survey. Any questions before we leave? All right.
Survey back in the link. My computer completely